Welcome back to my channel. This is Andy in Singapore, and for today's video we are going to do a quick review of this Seiko 5 Baby Monster. I think there are many different iterations of the Seiko 5 Baby Monster. I think I reviewed one about 2 years back, the orange style version, but this one here is slightly different, and this is actually a JDM model. Let's have a look at the reference number, SRP605J2. So the J suffix here would mean that this is some sort of a JDM model, and this watch comes in at under 400 Singapore dollars. You can definitely get this one from our boutique. This is where the watch was loaned from. This is definitely one of those last models, or the last few designs of Seiko 5 with the old Superman shield logo here. So I'm actually quite a big fan of this logo. So why do I say this is one of the last? Because this sports the 4R movement, the 4R36 movement, which hex and hand wind. So the older Seiko 5 models, they would typically come with the 7S26 movement, which is terrible, right? It doesn't hack or hand wind, and I would say this is very much the upgrade to the older 7S movements. In terms of dimension, this watch is actually bigger than the Monster. It comes in at the case size of about 45 millimeters, and total thickness here is about 13 millimeters, measuring from the base of the flat exhibition case back to the top of this bezel here, which sort of slopes inwards where it meets the mineral crystal. We've also got a very standard 22 millimeters lug width here, which means this is going to be a strap monster. You can put in your aftermarket rubber straps, and it's definitely going to fit very well and look very good. L to L distance here is also very manageable, comes in at around 50 millimeters, and this, despite the 45 millimeters case diameter, doesn't look like a terribly oversized watch. In terms of case build quality and design, I would say this is more or less a mishmash of various Seiko dive watch models. So obviously we've got elements from the Seiko Monster. I think the handset, as well as this bezel here, this aluminum anodized bezel here, definitely reminds me of the Seiko Monster. On the other hand, we've got design elements from SKX by way of the dive markers here, I think. Alright, so definitely a mishmash, and we've also got this crown here, which again should be taken from other Seiko 5 models. In fact, it does remind me of a Seiko Monster, but it is housed at the 3 o'clock position as opposed to the 4 o'clock position. So in terms of case design, I would say this is still rather unique. I haven't really seen this design here with some flanks along the sides here. Alright, so it's not quite a bevel. It's more or less like a flank or unusual design here at the case side. This being a Seiko 5 model, it is not ISO rated, and it does not have a screw-in crown. So this one here, you can just easily pop it out, and you can see here that the second hand here just stops. So I'm glad there's a hacking function to this watch, because it means that you can get a better accuracy when it comes to setting the watch. And as mentioned earlier in this video, this bezel here really reminds me of one of the Seiko Monsters. I think in the Gen 2 series they had something that looks like this, the exact color combination with this anodized bezel. So let's have a listen to the bezel action. So this is definitely one of those soft Seiko bezel clicks, and the feel here is pretty good. I think I'm quite happy with this bezel action because it doesn't feel overly wobbly or toy-like, and there is very little backlash on this one. And when it comes to the dial design here, I really like this little bit of accents here along the borders of the hour markers. I think this touch of colors of gold, I think it looks really good. And of course, we've got gold bordered handsets over here. You can't really see it, it's very subtle. And I think under the right lighting conditions, you can really see the bits of gold plating on the borders of the hour markers. And of course, we've got this dial here. The shade of blue here is just right, okay? It's not overly gaudy, too bright, too in your face. just the right shade of blue, and there is a bit of sheen going on. So this is not quite flat. Right, on the other hand, it's not sunburst or overly shiny. So again, they've got this one right here. So under different angles and light conditions, you will see that there's a slight sheen to the dial here, and overall it just matches this blue color scheme here. Alright, so even the strap here is blue, but this is low quality. This is the older Z22 wave design, so you can definitely upgrade this one to a nicer rubber strap, FKM or fluoro rubber or whatever you want to call it. So I dare say the watch here will look better if it comes on a better rubber strap. Here's a look at the lume shot here on the Baby Monster. As you can see, it lights up really brightly, and this is definitely on par with the ISO rated Seiko divers. So Seiko Lume Bright again, top of the game here. Definitely the best lume, and it even trickles down to the lower end Seiko 5 models. Here's a quick wrist shot of the watch on my 17cm wrist. It doesn't feel oversized, okay? It looks really good. Feels good as well. There's a really nice curve to the mid case and sort of makes the watch sit very close to your wrist and feels really good. As you can see here, the strap end here protruding becomes a joke, okay? So I think you can blame it on my smaller wrist here, but if I were to get this watch, I definitely want to put this one on another rubber strap, alright, which fits better, and it doesn't have so much protrusion at the strap tail. So in terms of size comparison, you can see here when put beside my own Seiko Turtle, the Baby Monster here is actually quite a lot bigger. Alright, despite having the same case size, about 45mm, I think this is largely due to the fact that the bezel here on the Baby Monster is much larger. Alright, so have a look at the side profile here. You will see that on the Baby Monster is more or less a slab-sided design, whereas on the Turtle there are more curves, and thereby leading to a smaller look when you look at the watches this way. So in summary, I would say this is one of those slightly harder to get Monster lookalikes at this point, because these watches, they are discontinued. The older Seiko 5 watches with the shoe logo here, they're definitely discontinued. So when they're gone, they're gone. If you're having a collection of the Monsters, Baby Monsters and Monsters lookalike, I think this watch could interest you. Alright, so this is Andy in Singapore. I will see you for more watch reviews next week. Bye bye.